Hey guys, what's going on? Looks like my little test video didn't get censored, so I guess it wasn't me saying that you could wear a hazmat suit to protect you against COVID. Apparently, that was not why the last two political videos I did got censored. I don't know what did though, because I only spoke for, I don't even know the counter, 16, 20 minutes, whatever. I've said hundreds of sentences in that time. Any one of them could be flagged for medical misinformation. I don't know which one it is. But thankfully, we're not going to talk about COVID today because I'm tired of talking about COVID. Who is not tired of talking about COVID? I don't know anyone, a regular person or political commentators like, yep, you know what? I love talking about COVID. I'm going to keep talking about it. Everyone is sick and tired of the bullshit. Every position has already been said, so we're not going to talk about that. What we're going to talk about is former Vice President Biden's infrastructure plan. Now, if you only listen to mainstream media, which I cannot believe that anyone still does anymore, but boomers gonna boomer. It's not just boomers; it's people my age too. It's not any one age bracket that still listens to mainstream news. A lot of people listen to mainstream news, not on TV anymore. No, cable ratings for all the mainstream media have been going down. You know, a decade plus, actually decades. But that doesn't matter. If you get your fake news from CNN on Facebook, you're still getting fake news from CNN. You're just not watching it on TV. And Facebook censors everything into oblivion. YouTube censors everything into oblivion. Twitter censors everything to oblivion. So unless you go to, oh, that reminds me, I'm gonna always put my Odyssey link in the info tab because I never know what video is going to be censored, and I don't know how many times they're going to censor me before I'm banned from uploading. I was banned for uploading a week, but once you get a second one, you're banned from like uploading for like a month. And then your third one was like you're permanently gone, and they could do that at any point in time. They can just pick one sentence out of the hundreds of millions of sentences I've said through all my videos and say, oh, this is misinformation. Boom, censored. So Odyssey is not a piece of shit. It doesn't just ban you for no reason. Still trying to figure that side out though, so my profile's all jumbled. But I get deleted, you know where to go. So you should follow me on there in case I get deleted, which might be 5 minutes from now. So if you listen to mainstream media talk about Joe Biden's infrastructure plan, you would think that it's the most glorious, awesome thing that's ever existed. And it's going to stimulate the economy. It's going to revitalize society. It's going to revitalize businesses and workers. It's the legacy of FDR, whatever, whatever. The funny thing is none of that is true. Every single politician, well, Joe Biden already did this. He spent trillions of dollars in his American Recovery Act. That sounds nice. Like, don't you want Americans to recover? What, you don't hate grandma, do you? You don't hate Americans, do you? Like, of course you support the American Recovery Act. Of course you support the Patriot Act. Of course you support Operation Enduring Freedom. Like, every single horrific plan has an awesome name. So if a politician gives you an awesome sounding plan, it's a piece of shit. If a politician for some reason gives you gives you a bill to say this is a fucking piece of shit, oh, then it might actually be a good bill. The problem is that it's twofold. One, most Americans have no idea how economics work. So whenever they see the government spending all this money to revitalize the economy, oh, that's good. Look at all this money they're spending to help us out, to help out the economy. Apparently, they never took an economics course, or if they did, they forgot about it because that was 40 plus years ago or whatever. They don't understand that government spending does not revitalize anything. There has been no point in human history in which the government spent money and improved the economy. One, the money doesn't exist. They don't even print money for lots of these programs where they just write it down because they're already in debt. What's the point? They're already $28 trillion in debt. So when Biden says, I'm going to spend $2 trillion, he just marks on a piece of paper, here's $2 trillion. They just add $2 trillion to the debt and then they just keep going. Like, it's not even fake money that they're printing that's not based off of a hard currency like gold or silver or something. It's not even that. It's just flat out never printed. It doesn't exist. It's just, like when you check your bank account and everyone checks their bank account, like they don't set aside, let's say you have $2,000 in your checking. They don't set aside $2,000 in that bank and like, this is Robert's checking account, blah, 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 blah. No, it doesn't actually exist unless you withdraw it. It's all just one big money pool. In this case, it's just a big negative pool of debt. So it doesn't actually exist. They don't set aside, here's $1 million in cash for this program. They don't do that. They just write it down. So it's all based off of fake money. It's not being produced. If you produce $50 worth of goods and services, then that is based off of something. You earned it. It's based off of your work. When you just type something up like, I have $200 trillion. That doesn't count as real money. Also, it was going to cause hyperinflation. We spent, I think it was, I put it up on the screen a while ago and I forget what it was. I think it was 25 or 33% of all the money ever printed in our country's history was printed in 2020. Maybe it was 15. It was right around that quarter to third mark, which is already going to cause massive hyperinflation. So right after making up $3 trillion for his American Recovery Act just fucking a month ago, he's going to inject another fake $2 trillion. That's $5 trillion right off the fucking bat. Our national debt of the entire course of human history is 28 trillion, and in 2 months he's going to add 5 trillion to that. Man, we're going to hit the ceiling of our debt sooner than I thought. They can't even keep track at this point. The trackers that used to keep track of this thing, pre-COVID, said we would hit it in about 30, 40 years. Ever since COVID, it's accelerated so fast that I can't even find any accurate information of when we're going to hit the debt ceiling at this point because it's accelerating so quickly. At this rate, he's going to double the national debt in 1 year if he keeps this up. And you're like, well, why would he do that? Well, why wouldn't he? No one's stopping him. The mainstream media is running cover for him, and all his stupid little supporters like, oh, this is so good, clap, clap, oh, he's revitalizing the economy. Who's to say he won't just do this every month to spend $2 trillion every other month or so? So not only is the media running cover for his horrendous plan, saying how it's the greatest thing ever existed, but people who don't understand economics think that it's a good thing also, not realizing that it's going to crash our economy and it's not going to do any good for the economy. The only way the government can do good for the economy is to get out of the economy, get rid of all the restrictions, the red tape, the paperwork, the filing, the fees, registration, all of that crap that hinders efficiency of goods and services. And they get the fuck out of the economy and let people run commerce the way they want. They let the laws of supply and demand work. People want this product, you get out of the way so people can produce it, and get out of the way so people can buy it. Not only is that a problem, see, all these problems are interconnected because now look at the title of this. Biden seeks to use infrastructure plan to address racial inequities. This racial inequities things, I've been seeing that a lot in the media the last, I mean, I've been seeing it for years, but increasingly ever since Biden got elected, because every single government plan they have has a racial inequity function to it. And what do I mean by that? Every single time they do anything, they say, we have to do this in a way that promotes racial inequity. Well, what does that mean? Well, in the article it says because due to past inequalities to race, back, he addressed stuff in the 60s and 70s. Now we have to make up for that by giving minorities more. So basically, whenever they say this program is going to address racial inequities, it basically means fuck white people and give minorities more money. That's what we've seen with every single program you can think of. Not only with the equal opportunity employer in affirmative action in college and jobs, that's been going on for decades. That's nothing new. But everything you can see from the vaccine rollout, they're prioritizing minorities over whites with giving people the vaccine. They're prioritizing minorities over whites when it comes to promotions within companies, in mentorships to get them higher paying jobs and move them up the corporate ladder. We've seen this with UBI, with Universal Basic Income. They're only giving it to minorities in certain states. I think Oregon and Chicago. No. Indiana was giving reparations, which is for racial inequity. And Oregon was giving UBI only to minorities. Even if you're a white person and you're still just as poor, you won't get it. We've seen this with schools where African Americans, because they just commit more, it's not crime, whenever they do bad stuff in school more, so they get suspended more, they get detention more, they see this as a racial inequity, so they have to even it out a bit by replacing school administrators and teachers, replacing the white school administrators and teachers with minorities to even out the stats, to give privilege to black students so they won't get in trouble as much, and then to even out the rate of suspensions or detentions or whatever. We see this with police officers, how they want to make police agencies reflect their communities, which basically means hire less white people and hire more minorities. So then the police force is exactly the same demographic as the county they are in. As if that would solve any of the fucking problems, because we just can look at any fucking shithole democratic city like Baltimore, for example, which is, I don't even know how high the African Americans are in the police force, but it's way over 75%. I think it's like approaching 80 or 90%. And yet they still have problems of quote unquote police brutality, and their city's a fucking shithole when every single major politician in Baltimore is black. Every single big business owner is black. Every single police officer, sergeant, the top brass in the police force are black. And yet still that place is a fucking shithole. It's not going to solve jack shit. They tie all this stuff in together, including the infrastructure plan that we're talking about, as to address racial inequity, which basically means give minorities more money. Oh, another example, we saw that with the farmer handouts Biden did, I think, last month, where he was going to give more money to black farmers that were hurt from this pandemic than white farmers. We saw every single government program you see, I just listed 6 right off the top of my head, I'm sure there's more. Every single one has a racial bias to it, and it all goes the same way every single time. Now, if I don't know, if that's not the definition of systemic privilege, then I don't know what is. Here's the thing. Whenever I say there is systemic oppression against white people in this country, and people laugh, and they say, well, what do you mean? What can you point to? What evidence? And then I list all of these programs I just mentioned, 6 or 8 of them, as concrete proof, like this is coming from the system. This is the government, this is the police, this is the school, this is every single point of authority in someone's life is giving privilege to minorities over white people. We see this in the law, in the bill, in the instructions, in the training material for all of these things. This is proof of systemic privilege that they are giving to minorities. You just get more money from the government. You get away with more crime because they have to even out the stats for, like, I don't know, violent assault arrests. Black people overwhelmingly commit that crime way more than every single other demographic. So how do you even out the stats to promote quote unquote racial equality? Well, you just arrest black people less and you arrest all the other demographics more. So you trying to artificially balance out the stats so that all the demographics are arrested basically the same amount for that charge. That's the only way you're able to do that. It's the same thing where, for example, Starbucks says that it wants its board to be a certain percentage minority by this year. I put it up on the screen, so I don't have it right in front of me. I'll look at it later whenever I'm editing it. There's no way they can reach that goal in that time frame without just firing white people and hiring minorities in their place. Even if they didn't fire any white people and just hired minorities every single time, which again is systemic privilege. I don't see how you can't see that. If there's whole company boards and whole parts of businesses that are just not applicable to whites because they have to balance out these demographics in their boards and their companies or their workforce or whatever. Even if they just did that, a board of a company is only so many people, and usually they're on the board for decades. So there's no way you can just naturally well, it's not natural, it's artificial as fuck just to not hire a certain race in order to balance out the stats. But there's no way even you can do it that way. You would have to fire white people for no other reason than being white and then hire minorities in their place in order to get that goal in that time frame. Again, I don't know how that is not the textbook example of systemic privilege. Hell, I've been talking for like almost 15 minutes now. We haven't even gotten to the fucking article. I don't even know if I need to read the article. Well, I guess we can read this one paragraph, which is really interesting. That includes $20 billion to reconnect communities of color to economic opportunity. That's a lot of feel-good buzzwords that, what does it actually mean? When you reconnect communities of color to economic opportunity, that basically means give minorities a lot of money. They're just going to give $20 billion to minorities. Yeah, that's awesome. How is that not systemic privilege? Oh, I'm a certain race, I just get a lot of money from the government? What about my neighbor who's white and makes the same amount of money as me, going through the same problems I am? Oh, he doesn't get it? Sounds like a privilege to me. Oh, I get to get into college easier? I get to get jobs easier? I get to get promoted easier? I get more government bailouts, government checks, just money from the government in whatever form they want to give me this month? Oh, I get reparations? Oh, I get UBI? Oh, I get the vaccine early? Wow, I'm living on life. This is great, man. I don't have to try to do anything. I just get everything from the government. I don't know how you can see this and be a white person and not just be enraged about it. Or just say, oh yeah, no, it's because we were racist in the past, so it's totally okay now. No, it's fucking not. I mean, I can't believe I have to say something I learned like in kindergarten that two wrongs don't make a right. You don't get to address past racial inequality by just massively swinging the other way in terms of privilege and oppression, saying, oh, it's all gonna even out. Like, this would be way different than like right after the Civil War and all the slaves were free and the government helped out these slaves get on their feet when it comes to being free people and had lots of government programs that gives them land and houses and materials to start a business right after the Civil War. That would make sense. That is addressing racial inequality. That's saying, hey, you guys had like literally no opportunity to do anything with your lives for generations now because you're slaves. So we're going to give you these things right now and to get you on your feet. That makes sense. That's okay. That is properly addressing racial inequity. Doing things hundreds of years later in the name of slavery, or decades and decades later in the name of Jim Crow or segregation or whatever, and just saying, oh yeah, this is to even things out. They're not the same people. You don't get to help because of the suffering that black people went through in the 60s, for example. You don't just give it to their great grandchildren and say, oh yeah, this makes everything better. They're not the same people. Or punishing white people now for the sins of their great grandfathers. It's just like, do you think that's how it works? You just punish family lines later down the line and it all evens out in the great scheme of, I don't even know what the fuck they're thinking at this point. Progressivism? Like, yeah, we gave plus 50 to these guys 100 years ago, so now we're doing negative 50 to people now, so it ends up to being zero, so it's fine. Like, is that how they look at things? Like, it's so fucking retarded. Oh, I didn't even see this part earlier when I was reading the article. That 2 trillion is only the first part of this massive fucking bill. The total cost of this amazing investment, quote unquote, is 4 trillion. He just spent, this is what I'm talking about. Just early in the video, I'm like, he's gonna keep doing this every couple of months for his entire fucking term, which that might be 2 weeks from now until cackling witch Kamala Harris gets in office, but she'll just continue doing the same thing. He's already spent 3 trillion in basically, let's say 3 months. It's beginning of April. He got he went in office mid-January. Just basically a little less than 3 months. He's spending $1 trillion a month on average, and now he's going to spend 4 more trillion. So that's $7 trillion. Yeah, on average, if you roll his stimulus bill, which was 3 trillion, has been in office 3 months. So in 2 years, he will add, if he keeps this pace up, which I don't see why he will, because he's just going to spend another 4 trillion now. He's going to add $24 trillion to the debt when our entire debt is already 28 million. So in 29 months, he would have more than doubled the national debt with these ridiculous fucking programs. I don't know how that doesn't just scream at people like this is a major red flag. I don't know how people are not screaming for him to stop. Millions are. It's not like I'm the only one speaking out against him, but the depths at to which they are railroading this country into the ground is unprecedented. The United States has been going downhill for quite some time. That's nothing new. We are J-curving the J-curve when it comes to how fast we are spiraling out of control. And there's like 40% of the population that doesn't give a shit. That's $7 trillion, people. And there's still more to come. We're going to hit our default on our debts and crash the economy again after just crashing it last year. So good luck with any prosperity you might have had for your future or this country's future. Like, good fucking luck with that.